رهاننا الحقيقي في هذه الفترة من الزمن، في هذه الفترة اللي نحن عندنا خير، هو أن نحن نستثمر كل إمكانياتنا في هذا التعليم.
Coronavirus closes the doors of the school, but cannot close the door of knowledge, especially for AE students, who tens of thousands of whom have gone through an experimental experience with distance education. With the Ministry of Education's decision to suspend education for 4 weeks, providing that the first 2 weeks begins with a spring break that has been introduced, and the other 2 weeks are concluded with full school distance learning. As a part of being preventive and protective, an upstart of efforts has been taken to ensure the safety of students and in line with measures to limit the spread of the new coronavirus. Like any first day of school, there are some challenges that may differ in distance learning from the usual in the traditional field, such as typographical errors in the passcode and difficulties opening the system due to user pressure. However, the experience of students, educators, and parents remains the superior position on the government decision. On this topic, we requested our questions to 3 different groups to be the story of their experience with distance education.
Hello, I'm Dr. Dalal Al-Shamsi from College of Science, Geoscience Department, and I'm today with you to support a graduation project and to speak about my experience in the distant learning as an associate professor. So first of all, I want to say that I've started this as an official experience since March 2020 because of COVID-19 conditions, and the start was so easy and fluent because in fact the UAE University has started the online teaching and learning experience since 2003, so 17 years ago, and the plan started in the year 2000. So the university earns an experience of almost 20 years in the online teaching and learning. So the UAE University was one of the most sufficient universities in the online learning and teaching and in distant learning. So this is to start that point. And since I entered the university as a student in the year 2003, I took my first exam in the biology as online exam. So this was a really very mature experience for me. And a second point about the distant learning, the difficulties were usually in the physical contact. Most of the students are very easily to be expressive when you are in physical contact with them, and you can read their eyes and notice how deep they understand the material. So it was so difficult to talk behind the screen and know how deep they understand everything. And so it was a kind of having a barrier between the teacher and students, to having a screen in between. So this is a negative point actually, because a very good teaching sometimes needs the student to be in contact with the teacher. Some students cannot understand the material without looking at the teacher's eyes. So that's the point. And one of the most significant points that affect the online learning negatively was the online exams. A lot of students stay in regions that are poorly connected with the internet at some point. So, for example, when I'm responsible for almost 60 students, sometimes only 48 are able to enter the exam, and 12 students get severe problems in the internet connection. And as a teacher, I should repeat the exams for all these students in different times, which are good to their schedules and psychological conditions. And a very recent example was the last week for the midterms. I repeated the exam for 12 students out of 60, and I finished the exam completely by 10:30 in the evening, because I want to make sure that all the students feel comfortable and do very well. So this is a very heavy negative point from my side. And one more thing is about being at home and learning or teaching. I can divide this subject into three things. The first thing, the general education students, who are almost, for my side, non-science students taking general education science course. These are very easy things to explain, record, and they can understand everything just by explaining and putting some examples and figures and recent applications. The second type is the geoscience student, who are from my department. This department depends mainly on the field work. So we shall go to the mountain, oil companies, or be in the lab and make some experiments. So the students lost a lot of knowledge while taking the data or information from home. So I promised them to take them to substituted field campaigns and trips just after the COVID, and maybe after everyone will be vaccinated. I guess this inshallah will be very soon. And the third point, which is one of the most significant thing, is talking about the graduate students who are master and doctorate students. These students, some of them are really suffering because of delaying their laboratory work, experiments, or collecting samples. But from my side, what I have did, that I made them a very special workflow timetable, so they can do the literature review at that time and do some statistics depending on some old data that I haven't published before. So they can at least do something at the time being and earn the best knowledge that can be done. So this was about my experience.
I'm Atik Ahmed. I'm a student in Al Dafra Private School in Al Ain City, and this is my last year in high school. Distant learning is very close to the regular class method, but the difference is that we are on an online platform. For a person to start an online class, that must prepare 30 minutes beforehand, setting up the laptop and making sure it is charged, and then make sure that the books and notes are ready too. A person must insulate themselves, ensuring there are no noise around them, and then begin the online class. The steps are not hard, but the person must take the subject seriously in order to them to succeed at the online class. The most important thing that changed my life is the amount of time that I took to get ready for school. It used to take me approximately an hour to get ready and leave. Now just in 15 minutes. I prepare my books, notes, laptop, and I'm ready for the online class. The good thing that happened to me ever since I started online classes is spending more time with my family, because on regular days I come back late from school to do my projects and homeworks, as it takes a lot of my time, and don't get a chance to spend time with my family.
معلمونا الأعزاء، لكم منا كل شكر وتقدير. نستذكر بكل محبة تلك اللحظات التي كانت تجمعنا في المدرسة والصفوف. منكم استلهمنا العزيمة والإصرار على التميز، أعطيتمونا من كل قلبكم، ومنحتمونا من علمكم ومعرفتكم ما ينير عقولنا وأفكارنا. وها أنتم الآن تستمرون بالعطاء عن بعد مهما كانت الظروف. ولا ننسى فريق التعلم الذكي الذين يعملون وراء الكواليس ليل نهار لدمج أحدث التقنيات الرقمية في التعليم. أولئك الجنود المجهولون الذين يبذلون كل طاقتهم لاستمرار التعليم في هذه الظروف الاستثنائية. فأنتم جسور التواصل بيننا وبين معلمينا. نرجو من الله أن يمدكم جميعا بالعافية ويبارك في جهودكم. نعدكم أن نكون عند حسن ظنكم، وأن نكون على قدر المسؤولية تجاه مجتمعنا ووطننا. شكرا لكل معلم، شكرا فريق التعلم الذكي، شكرا خط دفاعنا التعليمي الأول.